virtual people? Welcome to episode 12 of Fandom Spotlite's VCR Redux, where we take your favorite franchises out of the analog era and bring them back to 2021. I'm your host, pop culture punk Chris Stiles, joined by my co-host with the most, film professor Ian Klink.
Hello, everybody.
And we have two radical guests on the show tonight. First up, she writes for a big-time animation company, but she's not at liberty to say which one. Yali Perez is on the show.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be back and to talk about something my dad didn't force me to watch. This is my choice. So I'm glad to talk about it. And if you figured out what that big animation studio is, put it in the chat. You're probably right, because there's only like 3 of them. So it's nice to be back.
We're very stoked to have you. Also coming to you courtesy of Fandom Spotlite, The Tough Channel, and Geek to My Nerd, Joseph Davis is on the show tonight.
Hi. How's it going?
All right. We are here today to help evolution take a leap forward. That's right. The X-Men have finally found their way into our VCR. But before we can help fold this franchise into the MCU, we need to talk about how it came into our lives and what we love about it. So, X-Men. What, where, when, why, and how did it happen to you? We'll start with Joe and Yali, but that also goes for you guys watching at home. Hit us up in the live chat with your first-time X-Men stories. Who wants to tee it off?
X-Men. I got into X-Men through like those, I keep calling them baseball cards, but like, like the collectible cards. But like, there's like one shiny one, and then there'll be like one about like a couple of the villains and a couple of the regular X-Men, and we would collect them. We would collect them and like put them in order, and I would like study them every day. Like, this one's Nightcrawler, his name is Kurt Wagner, his dad is Azazel. Like, I would spend all my time like learning about them. And then when the X-Men animated series came out, like that was the coolest thing, like like they like that, like ingrained in my mind, like having a bowl of like Cookie Crisp and watching X-Men. And then I've seen every other X-Men thing, the films, the TV shows, the animes, the fake X-Men and the Mutant X. And it's always been a part of my life. It's just one of those things where it's like, everyone can relate to someone in the X-Men because there's like a billion of them. So you just find the one you vibe with and then you hang out. So yeah, I've always been a big fan. I think they're probably like my entryway into like nerddom besides being forced to watch The Predator. So yeah, X-Men rock.
Incredible. Joe, how did X-Men come into your life?
I'm gonna be honest, and there was not a time I, as a sentient human being, remember before knowing of the X-Men. Like, I wouldn't say fan, but like, my earliest memory, I'm like, yeah, I know who Cyclops is. But like beyond that, like I couldn't tell you. But they've always kind of been like also up there. Like, who doesn't remember being in junior high and fan casting a live action X-Men movie on the school bus even before it was a thing? And the only one anyone ever got right was Patrick Stewart as Professor X.
Yeah.
Because that's like perfect casting, period.
I still want Thomas Ian Griffith as Gambit. That's my retro cast right there. Terry Silver as fucking Gambit would be perfection, and you all know it at home.
Ian Griffith. Good Lord, Chris. Again, there's 7 billion people in this world, Chris. There's one person right now who acknowledged Thomas Ian Griffith in this planet. He's sitting in that chair. Damn it.
You know something? There's going to be millions of more people ready to acknowledge the greatness that is Thomas Ian Griffith when Cobra Kai season 4 comes out, which supposedly will happen in Q4 of this year. Just saying.
Sir, I was there. I was there at Hardpoint. Don't talk to me about Thomas Ian Griffith. I was there. You were there.
Were you there for Excessive Force?
Of course I was.
The whole show.
Who are you? What are you talking about? Joe, I'm sorry. Continue.
It's fine. It's all good.
Segue briefly to the chat. Mickey Torres says those cards are worth money, and I agree.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Not to cut you off, Joe. Sorry.
No, it's fine. But like beyond like the old 8-bit Nintendo video game, which was terrible, and all the various animated series I grew up watching. The classic '90s X-Men. But also I'm a big fan of like Wolverine and the X-Men and X-Men Evolution. They're both actually pretty solid shows. I also have been in a tabletop role-playing game of X-Men before, where we all played existing characters, and I play with
wow.
Yali is like, absolutely right. You find a random X-Men you vibe with and you like them. I'm a big fan of Peter Wisdom, the British spy who is also a mutant and a member of X-Men. At one point, also a founding member of Excalibur. The kind of the Professor X of Excalibur, so to speak. But yeah. Wow. Love the X-Men.
Yeah, that is an intense. I don't know all of those things, but I'm with you on most of that. Wolverine and the X-Men I remember very well. Ian, what was your gateway drug into X-Men?
Hey, it's the song, man. You know, you know, that to me it was the cartoon show. You know, I've never been a comic book guy, so I've never, you know, really got into the comic books or everything. But I do remember watching that show, and I even had a VHS tape of that I got from Scholastic magazine. Remember the school Scholastic fairs?
Yes.
Yeah, I got an actual VHS of X-Men from that. Okay, either it was that or it was from Pizza Hut. It was one of those two that I got that X-Men VHS tape from. There's something in my head now that just said Pizza Hut. I don't know, but I would say that was my forte into it. You know, was watching that show, and then honestly, the only other time that really got into it was, of course, the Hugh Jackman, 2000s X-Men. Watching that movie for the first time, and honestly, being like everybody else, going, "Why isn't their suits yellow?" I didn't understand why their suits weren't yellow. So,
I will say, yeah, the one thing that was a strike against the first film for me was the black leather unitards that everyone wore. I guess that's what you would call it, or like onesies or janitor suits, or I don't know,
not janitor suits.
Whatever. That just, to me, it didn't have the flavor. Like, that's one thing I would do differently, and we'll get to that, but I want to restore like the bright and bold and like colorful characters. So there's a lot of
yellows and the blues.
Yes, the yellows and the blues, and Storm decked out in white, looking like a boss, looking like a badass. And oh gosh. So there's some action in the chat going already. Alex Bonafante says his gateway drug was the X-Men cartoons and the arcade game. That's a great starting point, actually.
Oh, the arcade game.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I had to buy that arcade game for PS3 because I was like, I need to have this, and you can download it. Like, oh my god, take $10, I'll take two. Like, classic.
I forgot about that arcade.
Our friend Angie Saunders says she loves the animated version, which I think, for me, I think that was my gateway drug as well, was the 90s cartoon show. There was something about that and Spider-Man that I feel like the movies haven't quite captured the magic of either of those two cartoons yet. They've gotten kind of close, sort of, but those cartoons were like damn near perfection. And the Batman show from the 90s. Like, we didn't know how good we had it. Like, 80s cartoons are no joke, but 90s cartoons aren't either.
I think that's what was more accessible, though. For me growing up, yes, as much as they probably weren't that expensive, comic books were a luxury. We didn't get those, but it was on Fox TV. It had that. So I think it was easier to get into those TV shows and the cartoon shows, probably more so than the comic books. And probably a lot of us were probably that way. They were smart to put that on TV. I'll be honest.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure there was like some angle in selling action figures or toys or those trading cards or whatever, more comic books. But like, I don't care. That show was done, you could tell, with love and with respect for the franchises. And I feel like both, in the case of Spider-Man and X-Men, they had this edge that some of those other cartoon shows of the time didn't have. Like, Captain Planet didn't have the edge of the X-Men.
You don't care about the planet?
I care about the planet, but it's not like as edgy and cool as Wolverine with like claws and stuff.
The ozone layer is a hole in it. Like, that's important.
Yes,
but like, it didn't talk down to you. Like,
did someone
I thought I did it again.
Did Quicksilver just freeze Joseph?
Oh no. The X-Men are here.
Oh
my gosh. Well, while he's unfreezing,
we got to stick with this for a second though. I agree. When I watch my cartoon shows, I don't want to feel depressed. All right, and Yali, Captain America made me feel sad.
It made you feel depressed.
But Captain Planet, you mean?
If I want to throw away trash,
no,
you will not
you have to live on this planet. You should. It made me more motivated to help save the planet.
I just took out the recycle tonight. Don't
That's
look
great.
at me.
Captain Planet would be so proud of you.
I'm just saying, if the garbage men were armed, I'd be that much more inclined to recycle. I don't want to get crazy. You know, almost like a gun. I'm totally joking. I do not think
Planet would not
be
armed with guns.
By the way, if I can at least prompt the recent episode of Rick and Morty, totally calls out Captain America, and it is brilliant.
Are we still talking about Captain Planet, and you're just calling it Captain America?
Or Captain Planet. Captain Planet.
Yes.
You got me on that one.
There was a Captain Planet-esque episode of Rick and Morty.
It's hilarious. It's pretty good.
Got you for two.
We got your back, Joe.
Oh, okay. Joseph has been unfrozen. We got Pyro in there to thaw Iceman out. Also, just want to mention in the chat, our buddy Mickey Torres says Silver as Gambit would rule, and I obviously have to agree since he's agreeing with me. Also, Richard Lynn says Pride of the X-Men was the first animated one-shot, which is, I think, what I was thinking of when you were talking about Wolverine and the X-Men. I think I was thinking of Pride of the X-Men, which had the brown and yellow Wolverine. But just had to flex a little bit of fandom nerd for you guys. So the movies, how did the movies happen to you guys? Did you see the first one in theaters? Were you like stoked, in the year 2000 or not so much?
I haven't even still seen the first one.
Holy shit!
Wow.
Wow. What did you go right with X2? Did you start with X2?
I did, and it was glorious. It was really glorious.
You know what?
He skipped the growing pains and went right into the good shit.
You know something? Speaking of, I skip season 1 every time I watch the show Growing Pains, which I'm currently doing. I'm just saying, season 1 you could totally do without. And X-Men, you could pretty much, especially if you're a fan, you really don't need that first movie. That first movie is for non-fans. It's like, okay, here's the people, and they do a thing. The second one is where it gets that's the Empire Strikes Back of the X-Men. That's one of my all-time favorite comic book movies that's ever been made. I'm ashamed to say that because in light of more recent events, you kind of can't like Bryan Singer very much, but X2 is a great film, and a lot of other people put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, and so you gotta love it for that. And it just was just a fucking kick-ass movie. The guy, what's his name, who played Stryker? Oh, perfection.
I don't remember the actor's name, but yes, the thing with all these movies is the casting has been phenomenal the whole way through, and they've done really well. I mean, for the most part. I'm actually not personally a fan of Ian McKellen as Magneto. I don't think he brought the level of intensity to Magneto that he brought to Gandalf. I know they're not the same role, but he definitely brought a lot of weight to Gandalf, where Magneto, who's just yeah. That's the vibe I got. That's me.
I stood by when I saw the first one, which I saw the first one at the drive-in. Ooh. I was lucky enough. There was a drive-in when I was in high school up the road. And so I remember actually seeing X-Men at the drive-in, which is great. If any movie that you ever see should be at the drive-in. But I loved when in the TV show, I loved Beast. If I had to identify with character, I always loved Beast, the intelligent, berserker who could, go off. And I remember thinking Frasier would be amazing as the Beast. And sure enough, they cast him.
It's so meta perfect knowing that Kelsey Grammer is this proper, very direct person, but then he's also, can get rage drunk. So
yeah, exactly. So I agree with that. I think they cast these fairly, amazing. Halle Berry as Storm, and to honestly to discover Hugh Jackman. What a stroke of luck.
I'm actually when I was younger, I mentioned the casting on the junior high bus. I was a huge fan of James Bond when I was a little kid. I didn't get it. I just thought it was cool. And I had also Conan movies, huge fan. But I'm a huge fan of Grace Jones. And growing up, I'm she would be the perfect Storm because she's got that presence and that booming voice. And I just, it'd be perfect.
If they made that in the 80s,
she definitely would have been the one for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She would have been incredible. Yeah. Retrocast X-Men for days.
Who would have been Wolverine in 1987?
Oh, Sonny Landham from Predator. Are you kidding me? Would have been perfection. Would have been absolute perfection. The dude who cuts his chest open.
Yeah.
He just is good. Wolverine. Like, you don't even need to do
the tracker guy who ends up trying to like fight the Predator on the bridge alone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Psycho?
Yeah.
That's Psycho.
And from Best to the Best, like 2 and 3 or
I think we talked about that. They wouldn't insure that guy. You know, he was such a crazy psycho person.
They wouldn't insure Downey either, and look what the fuck happened there. It was brilliant. It made the MCU.
But there's CGI with that.
His stock went up.
I'm telling you, in 1985 or whatever, anytime between 85 to 95, Sonny Landham could have been one hell of a Wolverine.
I say Andrew McCarthy.
Andrew McCarthy. Wow. Andrew McCarthy.
I want a sensitive Wolverine. That's what I want.
I could see Andrew McCarthy being Nightcrawler or someone, maybe a little bit more like that.
Are you talking about the one Alan Cumming played?
Yes.
Yeah. Alan Cumming was the perfect Nightcrawler.
Yeah, he really was.
Never changed.
You can't.
That's his best role in anything. Is perfection. So no changing of Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler.
Well, here's the thing, and we'll get to this, in about 14 minutes or so. But it is, we do have a tall order upon us if we're going to even attempt to recast like almost any of these roles. Famke Janssen was amazing as Jean Grey. Rogue, like they just nailed fucking everybody. Beast, Storm, Cyclops, like James Marsden was great as Cyclops.
Oh, he was. He was. Can I say this though, and just because I think at the time the press really did get some things wrong about this. What I think Rebecca Romijn did in that movie, the bravery.
Oh, she's incredible.
But the bravery of her outfit, the bravery of doing that so publicly. I remember at the time it was, of course, like, oh, why are they sexualizing the X-Men and this and stuff? And it's like she went out there and she really did a performance for everybody, and she actually did a great acting job.
Yep.
And so I think I disagree with you, Joe. The casting of this, he couldn't have gotten a better cast in this movie. Yeah,
I think in general, it's amazing. Like, I may not be a fan of some of the choices, but that doesn't mean I don't think they still did a fantastic job overall. Like, it's still amazing, and I'm a huge Rebecca Romijn fan when it comes to that. Like, I think the only reason people think of Katniss more is because they gave Mystique more in those movies than they did to Rebecca Romijn. I think if Rebecca Romijn had the level of writing behind her, she could have torn that role apart.
First of all, I don't know if there's anyone that really thinks of Katniss more. That's crazy to me.
I couldn't remember her name, so I was thinking of literally the only other role I could remember.
Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence is a big deal to a lot of people. So a certain generation, I would say, that's their Mystique. But like for me, it's like my Mystique is Rebecca Romijn, and the only reason the version of Jennifer Lawrence got is because of that version of Mystique was so good. People liked it, that version, without the costume, the all blue, and so that's the reason Katniss got her version. This is something very similar. So people definitely liked it and wanted more Mystique, and they just transferred it over to this next sort of franchise of X-Men movies.
Yeah, Joe, did you like? Why am I blanking on his name now?
Character name, tell me.
From Prometheus, the played the younger Magneto.
Yes, I love him so much.
Michael Fassbender. Yeah,
Michael Fassbender.
There is some talk about him in the chat already. I do want to say that I'm not trying to throw shade at Jennifer Lawrence. I just think Rebecca Romijn was a better choice. It's nothing against her performance, but there was maybe even to get into that, she didn't seem too interested in being there by the end of it. Whereas Rebecca Romijn, you felt like she brought her A game every time. And by Dark Phoenix, like J-Law is like, get me the fuck out of this movie. I don't want to be here. I'm winning Oscars and shit. Like,
when I'm talking about these movies being castable, I'm talking about both sets. Like, I think the casting is phenomenal across all of it, because you're dealing with time travel and alternate realities and all sorts of weird crap. And I think they do really well with what they have. And I do like Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique. I don't think she would have been as good in the same position that Rebecca Romijn is in. But I think if Rebecca Romijn had the level of writing that Jennifer Lawrence had, she would have done a better job. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up with the chat. The chat's been going nuts. People are laughing about Ian's Captain Planet stuff. Alex Bonafante says, I'm not married to yellow, blue spandex or even Hulk's green skin. Moral lessons are what's important. I would agree with that. He said, X-Men as being an allegory for civil rights makes them the best the MCU has to offer. I would also agree with that. Mike Saunders says they're going to have a tough time replacing Hugh Jackman. I would very much agree. You know, as we said, they're going to have a tough time replacing anybody. Alex Bonafante also, it was Brian Cox's striker, he tells me. Thank you for that. That was, yeah, he was incredible. He was great in The Ringer too. Alex also says that he hopes there's a full conversion of the dual screen arcade game instead of a cropped 16:9 PS3 360 version. Mickey says he likes Michael Fassbender's Magneto the best. Alex Bonafante, KG is, Kelsey Grammer is Beast, perfect casting for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that. You know, Patrick Stewart was amazing. Beast is awesome. Mickey, of course, says he is not a Halle Berry fan because Mickey has the most unpopular film taste of anyone. His favorite Batman is Val Kilmer.
Well, Mickey, you answered your own question.
He's not here. You guys are still being mean to him.
Our good friend.
You can't say something like that and expect us to just let it go.
They're doing it out of love.
And again, Chris, 7 billion people. You're one person who brings up The Ringer at 9:22 p.m. on July 7th, 2021. One person on this.
Okay, Doctor.
It's a solid movie. I mean, he's great in everything he's in, but The Ringer came to mind.
You couldn't say Red Dragon. You couldn't say Manhunter. You couldn't say Super Troopers. You say The Ringer. Shimmy, Chris.
He is phenomenal in The Ringer as the cigar smoking, sleazy uncle type. But you know, speaking of being the only people to mention things, our good buddy in the chat, Dustin Nino, alias Tywin Lannister, says Jonathan Silverman is an 80s Wolverine. Wow.
Oh, snap.
I think that's in response to your Andrew McCarthy. He also says that Mel Gibson was in talks to play Wolverine at one point, which I've heard rumors about, and I've always wondered about that.
I could buy that. I honestly, in a 90s version of X, I could have totally bought, you know, like right after Lethal Weapon 3, before he went Man Without a Face, you know, that Mel Gibson, I would have totally bought that.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. You know, it's tough when you think about how do you recast these. It's already been recast like half, you know, they recast essentially half 90% of the entire universe once already. And for the most part, there are no like true stinkers in the recasting, but I feel like the original lineup just was a little bit more perfect.
Are you sure?
What's that?
I mean, well, they recasted Kitty Pryde like 4 times in like a series of films, and like Jubilee like 3 or 4 times the same. So it's like,
well, we never really got too much of them. So there were cameos,
and I remember
they're some of my favorite characters. I'd be all about giving them a little bit more. I think that's one of the things you should do. And again, we'll get there in about 7 minutes. But I think you should lean into some of the things that haven't been done yet. Like we haven't really gotten Gambit. We got like a little like appetizer. We got a sampler of Gambit. That's it.
We were supposed to get one with Channing Tatum. And
you know what happened?
It never came.
Sampler platter, if you will.
They had Taylor Kitsch as Gambit, and he was great. I thought there was a lot of potential there. I was like, okay, I dig it. Give me more of it. And then you know what happened? Channing Tatum's like, but I want to be Gambit. And they're like,
yes,
Channing Tatum's a movie star. He wants to be Gambit. We should make him Gambit.
No, he was like running around like telling people like, this is my Cajun accent. And like, don't you think I could be Gambit? I'm like, you sound Jamaican. So I don't think you can do a Cajun accent at all, actually. But yeah, it was supposed to be.
He sounds like Leslie Mann trying to do Australian.
He sounded like Chet Hanks, you know, like Tom Hanks' son. That's what he sounded like. I was just like, oh, baby, no, don't do this. So
not even Colin Hanks.
Not the voice of TV Woody. No.
Was it? Look, if Channing Tatum could be anyone in a modern day like MCU X-Men, it's Cyclops, because you know he's just pretty and he can deliver one-liners, and that's all you need from Cyclops. Cyclops.
I think we
I
should
think
stop
he's built
trying to
more
put
like a
Channing
Colossus.
Tatum in things.
Yeah, but then he has to do another accent, and that's not going to work. For him.
I mean,
Not-
dubbed by a better actor.
No, what we need for Colossus is the dude that played Ivan Drago's son in Creed 2.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But he's going to be in Shang-Chi, so
Really? Wow,
Yeah.
good for him coming up.
Blade Fist.
Wow, that's gonna be fun. Wow, that's gonna be really cool.
You know, the
there's
one
some.
The one
Oh,
thing I
sorry.
will say is like X3 though, that was so much chaos. I think honestly too, that was the one thing I had with the X-Men movies. I agree with you. I think X2 was better than the first one, but and that doesn't mean X3 wasn't bad, but I just remember being in the theater seeing it and just going like, I am so confused. Who is that? Wait, what? But then fast forward, almost 20 years later, 15 years later, and I'm watching, Endgame not too, a couple days ago, and I'm going, I understand everything that's going on. And I'm trying to think, what was the difference? Was it me? Was it the way that they filmed it? But I just remember that was a big complaint.
Endgame made sense because they built this up over years. Like there with
Sure.
X-Men, it was like we had like 2 movies before and we didn't see the third one coming. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Because the Phoenix is supposed to be like a Thanos level event, and they just shove it at the beginning of the movie, and then boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the problem. It was too many movies in the one movie because it was just like, wait, we're doing the Marauders? No, we're not. We're not doing them.
Yeah.
We're doing Dark Phoenix, but we're not doing Dark. It's just like too much happening. But it did give us the greatest line of our generation, which is "I'm Juggernaut, bitch."
It
What
didn't
a
give us
time.
the line. It took the line from the very early in the Internet Society meme.
Exactly. He was a meme, and people
That's
still to
true.
this day are saying, "I'm Juggernaut, bitch."
But they
Yeah,
took that
it's all
from
over
like,
the
the animated thing, like the pre-Newgrounds animated video that someone dubbed over the animated, and then they took it for the movie because it was like quoted so much.
Mm-hmm. So X-Men has some
I
good
still
stuff in it.
I still like Juggernaut and Deadpool too, though.
Yep.
Way better Juggernaut.
Well, as
With the
things
epic music.
as things went on, I feel like it became, a theme with the movies to sort of underwhelm with these big franchise cornerstone stories. Like Days of Futures Past was kind of underwhelming for me. Apocalypse was underwhelming. We never really got true Sentinels in any of these movies, and the ones that we did get in little teases and tastes were very underwhelming. I don't know, there's a lot of things, the lack of Gambit. So I think
That's
there's
just
definitely
it.
room. And Dark Phoenix, obviously, yeah, they really screwed Dark Phoenix up twice.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that they won't screw it up a third time, because
Well,
Disney owns it, but-
we can time travel now. So, of course.
They can just fix it in the movie.
Yeah. It's funny how, for years there's always been this time travel debacle of like, oh, time travel movies don't work. And how many movies now we're saving these franchises by introducing this idea of time travel? I mean, Marvel just did it. No,
That's
the
what Days
X-Men
of Future Past is.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting here going like, oh, talk about fixing the Star Wars. The new trilogy is going to be, we're going to throw that away. Well, how are you going to throw it away? Oh, well, that was an alternate universe, and so now we're over here, and this is the real Luke Skywalker, and all of that. I'm just like, I'm so lost. It's like trying to map out the Halloween series. You're gonna just shit yourself before you ever figure it out.
Well, that's why I was thinking about it today, and it's like it's almost tempting to bring back the OG X-Men cast of people, but I mean it's been 20 years, so that's obviously not going to happen. But like I feel like they were scooted out of the franchise too soon. Like James Marsden could have still been playing Cyclops. Hugh Jackman could have still been playing Wolverine. Famke could have still been playing Jean Grey. Patrick, the list goes pretty much on and on and on. And they did, sort of fold it together, I guess, with Days of Futures Past. But the one thing that really started to kill me, Logan was brilliant. Logan was, a high point for me along with X2. But
it's funny, like people put Logan over here though. Like it's kind of funny.
It's
It's like
own
it's his
beautiful
own little
thing.
thing over there.
Yep.
Yes.
It's like Logan and Deadpool, you belong over here with the fun stuff we'll remember forever.
They sit at the cool
And then-
table, and the other ones are just like by the trash can, just sitting there. With Wolverine Origins, just right there.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Wolverine
yes.
Origins could have been so good. It could have been amazing, but man, they jumped the shark with that one.
They jumped many sharks, not just once.
But then,
Several
but then let's try it again. The Wolverine.
That
Oh,
was
now
okay.
it worked. And it's funny. It's funny. Like I do agree though that the X-Men series is what made Hollywood like franchises and reboots.
Yep.
I really do think that if we didn't have the X-Men series doing some of it, we wouldn't have this thing that Hollywood's doing right now. So I really do think that, because that with the Wolverine, I remember reading an article. It was supposed to tank just as badly, and it shocked everybody, even the producers. They went, "Oh, people like this one. Oh, what did we do differently in this than we did in the other one?" You know, and that really kind of, I think, set up. Well, I can't remember when that one came out. Was that post Marvel? It was probably post Iron Man.
Yeah, it was
after
definitely
Iron
post
Man.
Iron Man stuff.
So yeah, probably post Iron Man, but not really Marvel yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think it might have been post Avengers 1. I think the Wolverine was 2013. I think Avengers was 2012. So I could be off on that slightly, but I'm sure someone in the chat will let me know. Oh, and yeah, speaking of the chat, Dustin is talking about how he actually thinks the Wolverine was really cool, and he likes the idea of Logan in Japan. In Japan fighting ninjas, which of course I do too, being a Canon fan. Dustin, for those watching at home, is part of Retro Fiend Radio, and they make incredible martial arts and Canon Films documentaries for free on the internet. So be sure to check them out.
Ninja 3, the Wolverine.
Oh, take my money. That would be incredible. Well, yeah, imagine if Canon did X-Men, it would have been incredible, because you would have had like Charles Bronson as Xavier, and you would have had, Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is Cyclops. No, Chuck would have been Wolverine.
I can read your mind.
Dudikoff would have been Dudikoff would have been Cyclops. That could have been a pretty good cast.
7 billion people. Chris, you're the only one.
You make one of those posters. What you do is make the
Dudikoff.
American Ninja poster with Wolverine. Just make a Canadian Ninja.
Yes.
That is pretty good. Yeah, I like that. The Canadian flag. Ooh,
Canadian.
solid. I like that. Put that one in the shirt pocket here for later. One thing I gotta say, and this is just like a gripe I have to get off my chest before we really dive into what we would do if someone gave us a stack of money and told us to, bring X-Men into the MCU. So one thing that started bugging me in X3 and bugged me more and more and more every time they made a new movie with Magneto was the Magneto lifts a heavy thing trope.
Yes, the real big thing. The
really big thing. Can he lift something even bigger this time? Oh my God! Wow, he's got a whole metal planet that he's moving. No, that's so fucking lame. That's like the equivalency of like watching Arnold throw more plates on his barbell, and that's just not cool. There's like so many more interesting and smart things you could do with Magneto than have him lift a huge thing. I don't ever want to see that again. I'm just prefacing that in case you're all were like, well, I got this idea where Magneto goes to an amusement park.
If he swallowed a silver ball like a pinball ball, would he implode upon himself?
No, because his magnetism is weird, and it's not actually magnetism. Because he can affect non-magnetic metals too. So it's Magneto.
I'm just saying.
Oh, really? I didn't even. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, because certain metals aren't magnetic at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's contrived, because they can always be like, here's this weird metal Magneto can't affect, and then he figures out how.
It is the kryptonite out,
Yeah.
Oh, he can't be saved. Haha, kryptonite. Bam.
So I do have to mention in the chat, our good buddy Jerry Lahane says David Carradine is all the ninjas.
Oh.
In keeping with our canon theme. Also, Retro Fiend is saying X2 and Logan all the way, which I fully agree. So we have some, do you guys have any, hot takes? Is there anything that like you really desperately want to see that you haven't seen yet in an X-Men film?
See, I feel like they kind of like blew it with what they used for the time travel, because I feel like granted it's a little too poignant now and I don't think it should be done anymore. But the legacy virus would have been a really cool concept to tackle. Even if they try to mix it or do all the Mojo World stuff, because Mojo is just fun. You get like Andy Serkis doing Mojo up there, and it'd just be entertaining as all heck.
My roommate would be shaking his head at me if he knew I asked, but for those at home and myself, can you explain a little bit more about Mojo? That's the character I'm not familiar with.
So Mojo is an intergalactic. He's an intergalactic TV host. That hosts like these terrible like murder shows.
Yes.
He kidnaps people from across the galaxy and drops them in Mojo World, where they basically forces them to fight to the death.
He made Spider-Man do it too.
Yep.
My God,
this is why I don't get into comic books. I swear.
You've probably seen him. He looks like a massive blob on a chair with a bunch of wires coming out.
Yeah, like dread style wires and like long fingernails.
His eyes are like held open.
Yes, Mojo's great.
He's like an 80s TV producer on a movie that's like sleazy as all heck. Like think Bill Murray and Scrooge at the beginning of the movie, but like with absolutely no scruples about pitting people to their death, a la The Running
ratings.
Jim Wynorski meets the Joker. Incredible.
I can't keep the antlers on the mouse heads. We'll staple it. Cruelest line.
Take some screws and put it in there.
Oh my God.
And don't forget to graft the knives to their fingers, otherwise they can't murder people effectively.
James Cameron on coke. I love it.
He
was actually supposed to do an X-Men at one point in the early 90s.
I like how he just came out with an article where he talks about like, well, honestly, I actually should have been more nicer on my sets growing up.
Yeah.
It's like, we got $1 billion now. What do you care? I love that.
Although I gotta wonder what a James Cameron X-Men could have been like if it was like Pete Cameron, like in between Aliens and T2, and True Lies, that era Cameron. That could have been potentially amazing.
Well, isn't that interesting? I mean, I thought about this for years. Why did it take so long for the comic book movie really to hit its stride? Yeah, we've had them, right? Ever since really Superman. You could argue they'd always been around, right? We've had Batman the movie, we've had, Batman, Superman comic book movies. But, it really wasn't until honestly, X-Men, that was when it really started to bring it all, and I think about that. Did Spielberg want to do one? Did all these I think there's go ahead, Joe.
I was saying I think a big thing that really helped solidify the people taking comic book movies in general seriously is Lord of the Rings.
I do agree with you. Yeah,
seeing everything that Jackson put in the Lord of the Rings to make it this massive cinematic, like beautiful mainstream hit, made all not only like audiences but studios go like, you mean we can take geeky stuff and make it acceptable too? Okay.
Yeah, and screw you, because Peter Jackson, because I liked when nerdism was over here. Like you made all these kids popular today. You suck.
I'm fine with it. If it means a kid isn't going to get beaten up for liking D&D in junior high, I'm fine with it.
It made us stronger.
Yeah, but
are you calling them snowflakes? Is that what you're doing?
Are we not?
No.
I think you're calling them snowflakes.
Do we not just want things to be better for the younger generation? Come on.
Ian's fine with littering, so think about that.
If I've got to go from A to B and the trash can isn't there, that's on the person who designs the layout, not me, Yali. Not me.
So there is some good theories in the chat here. Alex Bonafonte says, before Disney tries to shoehorn in 35 X-Men characters into the next Endgame, first they should create a subsidiary that can be R-rated away from everything Disney and then give solid origin movies for underutilized characters. That would be awesome.
Well, I'll tell you, they're gonna
try them better than they have been. Sorry.
They're gonna try to do that with Mobius. I mean, they're really trying to do the dark, rated R
Yeah,
comic
but that's
book
Sony.
movie.
Yeah, Mobius.
Is that
and
Sony trying to?
It's
Oh,
Sony.
that's Sony. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, everything Spider-Man attached is still Sony. The only
That's right,
thing
that's
that
right.
is technically fully Marvel and still has been attached to the Spider-Man universe is like Blade. And it's because Blade is more
And-
Marvel than
And
Spider-Man.
Spider-Woman.
Yeah. Dang it.
Mobius is in Loki.
Mobius. Sorry.
So there's some call in the chat for Mike Saunders, who I believe is first time watching. Thanks for tuning in, bud. He's calling for Shatterstar and Longshot, two more characters I'm not familiar with. But again,
Shatterstar died in Deadpool 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
He was-
Deadpool 2
He
yet.
was one that paraglided in
Oh,
into
yeah.
the wood chipper, I believe.
Yep, that was him.
You know, the first Deadpool didn't really blow me away, not gonna lie. I'm sure I'll get lit up in the chat for it, but like I thought it was good. It was fine. It was fun. But the jokes made me smile and not laugh out loud, if that makes sense.
All right,
You know,
I'm
like-
done. I'm done. It's been fun, but you know, I can't.
Ian, I'm not talking about Dirty Harry's Deadpool, not the Deadpool. I love the Deadpool.
I was there for Deadpool. Knock it off, Chris. All right. You can't talk to me like that.
Just saying, one movie has Jim Carrey lip syncing "Welcome to the Jungle,"
It
and
is.
one movie
That's
doesn't.
the best part of that movie is Jim Carrey. That's the best part of that movie.
Only one of those movies has Liam Neeson in it, and we all know what the superior film is. I'm plugging Dirty Harry in here. No, you know, one thing my roommate told me about today, again, my roommate Steve from Crash Romeo is a diehard X-Men fan. He had those same baseball cards as you did. And I thought, like, what a dork. I have like actual baseball players, like, who has comic book characters? And now I'm like, where are those? Let's get them. Like, those are amazing.
Yeah,
and
I still have mine
even
in my
like,
basement.
I remember them on the playground. I remember
Yeah.
having them.
even though my first reaction was like, that's dorky, once I started reading them and looking at them, I was like, this is really fucking cool. Like, I do love that show, and I do love, you know, the books and blah, 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 blah. So that would be cool. But he told me about something today that was really interesting. He said, like, in the beginning, there was, you know, and I don't know the names of these things, but there was like a living island at one point, and it sort of like captured half the team or like most of the X-Men, and that's when they had to bring in like new people like Wolverine and like Nightcrawler and stuff like that. So I thought that sounded like it could be a really cool movie, as long as the living island thing doesn't like suck. I mean, that has potential to not translate to film, obviously.
They could also do like a Savage Lands attachment version, and that would be awesome as well, because that Savage Lands has always been very X-Men.
What is Savage Lands? Again,
it's like a crater at the North Pole or something, where the world is still prehistoric.
Oh,
okay. Oh, that could be kind of cool.
X-Men and dinosaurs.
Hey, everyone wants Jurassic Park and Fast and Furious to mash up, so this would be a lot better than that.
But there's a lot more. There's like a crashed alien spaceship or something there too, and there's a dude that's a human pterodactyl that's also a brilliant geneticist. There's that meme that floats around the internet of like Spider-Man going like, "You're so smart, you could cure cancer." He's like, "I don't want to cure cancer. I want to make monsters."
Is it possible to take the X-Men more into space than they've been without doing Dark Phoenix again?
Sure.
Yeah, the Mojo thing.
Yeah, it should have been
Mojo
for
thing, yeah.
X4. You always go to space in 4, Chris.
You involve the
Russia.
Shi'ar Empire, and you don't have to have the freaking Phoenix stuff. You have a Romeo and Juliet love story between Professor X and the Queen of the Shi'ar, and all the Galactic War stuff.
That's not the superior Professor X love story.
Well, no, but it's him and Moira McTaggart. No, it's actually him and Magneto.
No.
That's the best version.
No.
Well, yeah, Moira McTaggart is again something that we got. Like, I feel like they went around the Moira McTaggart stuff that I wanted. You know, like you got the early and you got like a little glimpse of like the later, but you didn't give me like the middle of it. I don't know.
Well, isn't she like a scientist, or is she like a CIA agent? Because they keep changing it in the movie.
It depends on what day of the week it is.
Okay.
She's a single mom. She's got to work 2 jobs.
Got
Let her
it.
do her thing.
You know, it makes sense.
It's like Avenging Angel, schoolgirl by day, prostitute by night. She's just like, I'm a scientist and a mom and you know, and a CIA agent and yeah. And I went to school too.
I will say this though, with the X-Men series, I was thinking it's gotten to the point now where I thought they were going to really pull the Marvel approach to it, and just honestly, if I was moving the series forward, I would pull a Kevin. How do you say his last name?
Feige.
Feige. Yeah, I would pull a Kevin Feige and be like, look, here's how we're gonna do this: Wolverine movie, Gambit movie. You know, probably not Storm. I don't know if Storm could really hold the movie, but
What?
you know,
She has a lot of great stories all by herself.
I think Storm works.
And she was married to Black Panther.
And an
I
origin
didn't know
story
that.
of her time as a like leader of a thieves guild in Africa. Come on.
Now that
Also,
okay,
the whole Shadow King thing, like that was a whole big arc all by itself. Like she's got more stories than most people.
All right, I'm being attacked here. Listen, I didn't read the comic books here. But like,
sorry,
but
you uttered blasphemy at Storm.
We can't allow that. We can't allow that. Sorry.
I retract my statement.
Thank you.
Let's move on. But
Okay.
but you know, but then have the X-Men movie. Now, granted, they'll totally say you're ripping off Marvel. But honestly, at this point, I don't think anybody really cares who rips off who and who does what and what. I think everybody just wants that movie. You know, like, oh, this weekend it's this comic book movie. I'm going. You know, it doesn't matter if it looks like that one or it's. And I just think,
fun.
yeah, and as long as it's fun, and I think the X-Men movie needs to do it. And if I were redoing this franchise, I would say, let's go Marvel. Let's origin. You know, but don't call it Origins because that but just a Wolverine movie, a Gambit movie, a Storm movie, and then maybe one more, and then just bring it all together and have that rollicky Avengers type movie. And then honestly, I think the one thing I love about Marvel is how they did Spiderweb from like these little 4 or 5 movies at the beginning has just cracked that screen and has just spread its wings.
We're getting like Shang-Chi now. Come on.
Yeah, it's
we got like a third Ant-Man movie in the works.
Yeah,
too.
but it's like phase 3. Why?
Do not complain about Ant-Man.
I love Ant-Man. I'm not complaining. I'm cheering for it. Ant-Man's like one of my favorite things in the MCU.
I did stop at Aquaman. I said enough. All right.
Well, that's DC.
I don't care. Nobody.
We'll talk about those. We'll talk about those fools another day.
He talks to fish. He talks to fish, Chris.
He has telepathy. He's not actually talking to them.
He can survive the deepest depths of the ocean. That is tremendous pressure and strength.
He can
His
survive.
His true superpower is hotness. Everyone knows that. That is his true superpower. He has
when you cast Jason Momoa,
exactly. You could wash
make
your
him
clothes
Polka Dot
on
Man,
his
and
ass.
I'd believe it.
Exactly. His power.
So,
no, but
speaking of, which segues to a good point here. Who's your team? What team of heroes are you going with? Who are you leaving out? Who are you putting in? The big one. Let's start with Wolverine. Is he in or is he out in your movie?
In.
Okay. Cyclops.
In. I have a very specific film.
I would also say in. I'm waiting for. There's a little bit of okay.
Ian, but
not like as a fart.
No, I'm good. I think in, but not as main cast. You know, Cyclops is
in Dark Phoenix.
Like Cyclops. He's like he's the secret weapon that comes in at the end for mine.
Okay, Storm.
In.
Absolutely 150% in. I need Storm in my movie.
Jean Grey.
Out.
In.
Is she a girl? Is she girlfriend?
Out.
Well, I think I like the whole reason I want Cyclops in there too is one of the better arcs is like kind of that like long-term tension between Logan, Scott, and her. It doesn't have to actually be a relationship, but there should be that weird tension. Like, what is it I'm putting? Like, I'm trying to think of a really good example. I don't have a good example, but like, I don't necessarily want them to be together, any of them. Like, they should find their joy apart from each other because quite frankly, they're all 3 toxic for each other. But like that tension is real important to some of their characters' growths, especially Logan's. He learns to be a better person because he learns to let go of his terribleness.
Yeah.
Out.
Makes sense. So Rogue.
Out.
In asterisk? Because it depends
In
on who
asterisk.
plays her.
Okay, explain.
It depends on who plays her. That's my in.
Yeah.
Like,
well, assuming you have casting choice, who do you think would play a good Rogue?
I don't know. I only have a handful of casting choices for this.
Okay. Well, who are I'm curious.
Well, not for Rogue. I mean, for the movie in general. For the
right. Yeah. Who do you have in mind?
Well, like Jared Kiso for Wolverine.
Okay, I'm not familiar with him.
That's the point.
That's a very good point, and well made, sir.
Like part of it is Hugh Jackman was not that he didn't have a career before being Wolverine, but his career definitely blew up once he was Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
And Jared Kiso, for those that don't know who he is a Canadian actor from the comedy show Letterkenny. And he the whole premise of his character is this like straight-jawed, like stoic, kind of like hard edge, like kind-hearted, but hard-edged, like jerk, like tough guy. So like if you ever get the chance to watch the show, it's amazing. It's on Hulu. It's fantastic. But I the more I've seen of him, the more I'm like, yes, please. Like I would dig this.
You know, there's something in the chat that just put an idea in my head. They're talking about Gambit and, you know, why to hold off on Wolverine. The chat's going wild, but a lot of it's people talking with each other as opposed to so much at the show, which is great.
Fight.
No mercy, strike hard. But I think it would be interesting if Gambit showed, like, you know, I've said this, you know, many times already. Gambit's got to be there, and Yali's shaking her head at me. No. Okay, why would you not have Gambit? I'm curious.
So my biggest problem with the X-Men franchise is that it keeps trying to retell the same couple of stories, which is that Dark Phoenix saga. Charles and Magneto, they love each other, they don't like each other. The war between humans and mutants. That's tiring. We've seen it so many times, and I think there's a really good story about the secondary mutation, which is called, I think it's called Damon Hall syndrome. So basically, all mutants have one form of mutation, and then for some reason, due to like high emotions or a stressful situation, they take on a secondary mutation that has nothing to do with their first power. And that mutation, the secondary mutation, if not treated, can kill you. It turns you into a monster, and then your body then like decompresses and kills you. Dr. Hank McCoy ends up coming up with the cure. But I think since we want to incorporate this into the MCU, there's a specific character in the MCU who takes on a secondary mutation, and that person is Spider-Man. Spider-Man ends up becoming an actual spider, and that is a secondary mutation. And he has to turn to the X-Men specifically to get help, but they see him as a monster. They don't really know who Spider-Man is. So he ends up fighting with Wolverine and Jubilee and all that other stuff. So I think if we focus on this thing that affects other characters in the MCU, but is centered in the X-Men, that's the best way to do it. You know,
that's interesting.
And there's a version of that particular story where one of the Professor X's sons, who with a woman he met in Japan, can influence and cause people to have secondary mutation against their will. And he's like a super Omega leveled mutant. And my idea is to center it around that story where Professor X doesn't know he has this kid. There's a section of Japan where people are turning into monsters, you know, and it turns out that it is his son, and his son can twist and turn dimensions and destroy worlds. And I think it'd be a cooler thing to focus on this thing that affects everything in the MCU and not just the X-Men themselves. Yep. You know, we don't need Gambit, we don't need Rogue. We can just leave it to Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Beast. There's a character called Hisako Ichiki who's called Armor. She's one of the main Japanese X-Men, and also Emma Frost is in it. And the main villain for that series is also Mastermind, who's trying to convince Professor X's son. There's a character called destroy Hisako humans Ichiki, and give all the mutants secondary mutations so that they run everything. But I think this story would be the easiest way to incorporate the X-Men is by having our adorable Peter Parker suffer like a weird puberty where he's turning into an actual spider and he needs the help of the X-Men. And that can even be like a cameo in a Spider-Man movie, so we can introduce them, and then our next movie is the X-Men. You know what I mean? So I think that's the
interesting. Cronenberg, that's amazing.
I think using Onslaught would be a really cool way to go too, because that's a route that's never been explored in any of the movies or shows. Which Onslaught is an alter ego of Professor X.
Yep.
That's like all of his negative emotions made manifest, and he becomes like this like Hulk with telekinetic powers kind of dude.
Interesting.
Yeah,
sounds incredible. Why do they? There's so much lore to pick from. You know that you make a great point, Yali, that they've picked like 3 stories and tried to retell them each like 3 times.
Yeah,
and you absolutely have to break from that. You know, you can't do Dark Phoenix again. You can't do Wolverine's origin again. You can't do Xavier Magneto again. You really do have to chart some new ground. Now, me being the fanboy that I am, I always am going to like vote yes on Wolverine. I'm always going to vote yes on Rogue. And I want like, a Rogue that's a little bit more,
Southern.
Yes, Southern and a little less apprehensive, like the Rogue from the cartoon show was very proactive.
She is the Rogue for all of us. Like that is Rogue.
You're referring to the cartoon?
Yes, the cartoon Rogue. Like, that is Rogue. That's it. Anna
Totally,
Paquin is somewhere.
Anna Paquin's great, but
she's by the trash can with Wolverine Origins. So,
she's at the kids' table with Pyro.
That's kind of what we always wondered. Why did they just do the cartoon, like a version of it that was the cartoon?
They were trying.
But they never
were they really
good at it?
The cartoon, they didn't even do like the whole Mr. Sinister thing where he was offering them like the cure for mutism, and Rogue was like first up on the list, like, I want to kiss somebody, I want to touch someone and not hurt them, and she was like first one at the door, and turns out it was all a trap and like a lie, but it's like that would be so perfect. And the mutants are part of the Sokovian Accords too. Like they're a big deal in the Civil War, and to do Civil War without mutants was like mind-blowing to me. So there's a lot of things we skipped all together.
But the Sokovian Accords, like especially the way they handled them in the movies, were so different than the comics, because the comics were like one little town in New Hampshire got blown up because some irresponsible superheroes did some dumb things on live television. And then it just escalated. But the other thing too, with because Mr. Sinister was brought up, he's just a great villain all around. In general. Cloning X-Men because he's like taha tee.
Right, I'm gonna hear you.
But the best part about it is like in the current movies we have, they were starting to kind of hint at him.
Yes.
All the Essex Corporation stuff, that's all Sinister. That's just all of him. So like when in Deadpool 2, when they're like, all these kids are at this Essex home for like wayward children kind of thing, I'm like, that's
Mr. Sinister.
That's Mr. Sinister. He's gonna make an army of mutant children and just keep cloning them.
Okay.
But who knows?
There is a lot of talk of Mr. Sinister and Sinister X in the chat. A lot of people requesting that, as well as Richard Lynn saying Carl Urban is Wolverine. Interesting.
I could buy that. I could buy Carl Urban.
Look, the people want Zac Efron as Wolverine, and we're gonna give the people what they want.
But Zac Efron should be Adam Warlock, because Adam Warlock is supposed to be an ideal human being.
I mean, but let's just put Zac Efron in baby oil and everything. Why not just let him just be covered in baby oil and everything? Why not? Why can't he do both?
Zac Efron is Stryker, shirtless Stryker.
Just covered in baby oil for no reason.
Works.
It works.
No, all seriousness, if they really wanted to kind of have Cyclops be an okay character, Zac Efron would be a good choice for that role.
I can see that.
During the secondary mutation part of the comics, Jean is dead. Like the Dark Phoenix thing already happened. Scott is like a miserable, sad man. Wolverine is the fun one. You know what I mean? Like
fun uncle.
He's the fun uncle. He's making jokes with the kids, and Scott ends up becoming like Wolverine in that, because he ends up training Kisako like how to use her powers, and they kind of have like a role reverse. And so like, and again, there's none of that. Dark Phoenix happened, but we don't have to sit there and deal with that. It's nice we mention it, but we don't have to deal with it. And I think
if they can pull this off long term, I think a really good arc to build up towards is like the X-Men versus the Avengers. Yeah, there comes this huge point in time in the comics where the X-Men are like, you know what, you're just part of the power structure, guys. You could help us, but you're not. So like Cyclops leads this revolution of like, we're just gonna tear down all the world. Like he becomes the new Magneto, so to speak. Like
Now
Cyclops.
that would be awesome to do that, mixing, with Disney owning pretty much all the properties, mix those two together. That would be awesome. Because I keep thinking, how much more can we go with the Marvel universe?
Well,
and that to me would be a really cool way of doing it.
And I think they should. And I think if there's a total recast of the X-Men to bring them into the MCU, there's one I don't think they should ever recast, and that's Deadpool. Because I think the whole the third wall or the fourth wall breaking of Deadpool, I mean, he should be like you don't look the same and you don't look the same, and what's going, like, he should recognize something's different and nothing else is.
Oh, I love when he says that line, Colossal, which I love Colossal in those movies. But I love that line, we're gonna go see the professor, McAvery or Stewart. I can't tell anymore. This time traveling
McAvoy.
Or McAvoy, yeah, McAvoy. Who did I say?
McAvery.
Which is, I don't even know if that's a real name, but I love it.
It works.
This is cousin removed 3 times over.
That's right, yeah. He's the Joe Estevez of the Marvel universe.
The Don Swayze of the bunch. Huh. Oh, and yes, it's Colossus and not Colossal, as we may have been saying today. But we could do this all day. There are people are still going in the chat. Emma Stone is Rogue, alien hybrid race, this and that. X-Men is one of those fun things to play with.
Stop putting Emma Stone in everything. Stop it already.
That's a good point.
Hatred of Emma Stone.
Well,
but she's in everything.
It's not that we shouldn't put Emma Stone there. It's that we should find the right role for her. It doesn't have to be a big one.
It doesn't have to be.
The MCU.
She could be Dazzler, and it would be fine. You know what I mean? Like,
I dig it.
She sings. Emma Stone sings.
She does.
So we are almost out of time for tonight. But Joseph, Yali, do you guys have anything coming up you want to plug? Anything in the works for the people at home?
We will be back on Monday for Loki, talking about Loki episode 5. What an episode. I'd also, again, just follow your fandom. Check out what we got on Fandom Spotlight. Our website just got updated, so it looks really cool, really fancy. And if you found which big anime company I work for, I got stuff there. And I also do a podcast with my friends where we talk about makeup, but you don't have to watch that if you're not into makeup. If you just like listening to me, then listen to it. And so I think that's all I have to plug. Joseph?
I don't have a lot to plug right now because I've kind of been out of the doing things for a while with work. But I want to get back to writing on Fandom Spotlight. You can find some of my articles there. They're mostly about games and gaming. Though I do also enjoy movies. You can find my wife and I talking about all these dumb movies on our YouTube channel, Geek to My Nerd, including all the MCU. Before Endgame came out, we did a full rewatch where we were like watching various chunks of it every week and talking about it for an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
It's not great production, but it's a lot of fun.
And his wife is lovely. Like, she's so lovely.
I'll let her know you said that. I think she's lovely too.
She is.
Oh, that sounds super cool. Well, until then, guys, I do want to remind you all to tune in next Wednesday at 9 p.m. as we attempt to wheeze the juice and breathe new life into the Encino Man franchise. In the meantime, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow Fandom Spotlight, the Hollow Knight Network, and of course, Pop Culture Punk. Till then, back up those Betamax, rewind those laser discs, and we'll see you at the movies.